All right. Are we here? Are we online? Ryan is muted.
Oh, streaming fail. Yes, I am here.
Oh, streaming fail. That's all right. We forgive you. That'll be fine. Oh, so I feel like I'm very low and you're very high in the screen. So let me fix
I
that.
know.
Make about the same height. There we go.
There we go.
Hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Steph Takes Over Office Hours with Ryan, who's back with us.
Happy to help. Happy to help. Happy to jump in and take over.
Yeah, Ryan's keeping me company, so I'm not just talking to myself while also talking to all of you. All right. Well, today's going to be a little off the cuff. There's one topic I decided really wanted to talk about today in between answering questions. But otherwise, we're just going to chat about skill development. I see Steve's here. For those who don't know, Steve has, I don't know if this is public information, Steve, so never mind. All right. Well, for those who are new to the stream, this is the Alexa Office Hours. This is your hour to ask those of us in Alexa any of your burning questions about skill development. As usual, the disclaimer is if we can't talk about something, we won't. And we usually never talk about things that haven't released yet. So you're welcome to ask, and I will consistently not answer. So, Jeff announced it last week. Okay, so everybody knows Trade Last on Twitch. Steve Nelson joined our team recently with the Solutions Architecture team. So, and that's a great segue into intros. So I am Steph Sharp. I have been with the Alexa team for almost 4 years now. I'm a senior solutions architect in the Alexa Smart Properties team. So if for those of you paying attention to very niche spaces, I work with Alexa deployments in hospitals. So basically how we allow nurses to interact with patients without having to be in the room with them, which is really critical during COVID. Just meant that there was less chance of exposure. And other people on my team also work with, we recently announced Hey Disney. So there will be Disney in the hotel rooms. I'm not familiar with Disney with the Magic Band, but I'm super excited for it. So
That is going to be really cool.
These are just some fun things that my team works on. So hospitals, hotels, senior living facilities. So how people in senior living were able to contact their loved ones during COVID was also kind of the things that my team worked on. And I have with me Ryan today, who's also from my extended team. I'll let Ryan introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Matthews. I'm the architect lead for the games and kids teams. So my team looks after a lot of the managed partners in those domains. And there's a lot of overlap, obviously, a lot of kids games. A lot of kids skills are indeed games. So we work on some pretty cool and exciting stuff. At Alexa Live, we announced shared activities. So that is bringing asynchronous multiplayer to Alexa. So that's a big focus for my team and the partners that we work with is getting that integrated into some of the skills that you know and love. So much less weighty than the pandemic related work that Steph's team is working on, but fun nonetheless.
I mean, I think we all have different domains, different expertise. And our third guest today is Ryan's dog.
Yeah, you probably saw him.
Yeah, he's been moving around in the background, Jack. He will not participate at all. He'll just lay there and sleep. But, you know, good to call out the secondary guest.
Absolutely.
So just for a background on solutions architects, because I recently found out people don't know what solutions architects do. And I would say, depending on the company and the role, they're all very different. So Alexa solutions architects are essentially supposed to be experts on architecting Alexa solutions. So that means that we know a lot about the different features and functions and how they integrate and how to build the best experiences, both from a voice design aspect and from a technical aspect. I will say we are not experts on every feature. There are quite a few of them for those of you who have been around with Alexa for a while.
It's tough to keep up.
Right. So combined, Ryan and I probably make a full expert. But alone we do not. So there are certain areas that Ryan is a pro at, including our visual experiences like HTML and APL. Those I do not spend as much time in. You can imagine that hospitals don't necessarily want to build HTML games for their. I feel
fine.
It's almost like they're so busy trying to handle everything else in the world that there's definitely no time to be building voice games. But I will bring that up next time and see if there's any interest there. So we already have Some questions coming in. So Tristan Wasser, you can correct me there, on Facebook asked why the mail function is going away. Yeah, that got announced, I think, today. And the short answer is I actually literally do not know. So I'm sure if there's more information to share, it will come out here soon. But I don't think Ryan does either. Neither of us has any visibility into why that is going away.
Nope.
So one interesting thing about Alexa is one, the teams are huge. And there are two aspects to Alexa. We have what we call third party, which is what Ryan and I work with, features that third party developers can work with. And then we have first party, which are native features on Alexa, and email support happens to be one of those. So we're definitely not experts in that area. Playtime on Twist is asking why we have punted Echo Sim. Echo Sim is not an Amazon product, so I don't quite understand the question. As far as I know, it still works. Oh, it's retiring.
It's retiring in the past? Lack of traffic, it looks like.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you can read what they wrote there. It seems like, but it is not. I didn't think it was an Alexa product, but it does appear that we had some association with it. Yeah, see how much we know. Yeah, the testing simulator in the console, I mean, honestly, has largely does what EchoSim used to do. But EchoSim has been a great tool for since I started working with Alexa back when it was really difficult to test. So
yep. I have some really interesting experiences with hackathons where I use that and wowed the audience that so you can make an Alexa skill in 30 seconds and
right. EchoSim was really good for demos. And then we introduced visuals back in 2018, and it suddenly became like, oh, now I can't show, like, where's the visual EchoSim? And then we released that in the console. So looks like it retired back in April. I had no idea.
Playtime, if there's some functionality that you used to have with it that is not that you don't see available in our console, definitely write us on the contact us feature through the dev console or through our user voice forum, because again, we really listen to the community. So if there's a feature that you're missing, we'd love to hear what it is and try to see if we can pass that along to our product teams.
It's also a great time to plug that we do have a Slack community. It is run by developers and assisted, I suppose, by us. Ryan and I are both in that Slack. You kind of have to @ me to get my attention because I am terrible at social media in general. But
that is not true. That is not true.
I treat social media like a diary, so I kind of vomit words into it, and then when the diary talks back, I get a little confused. But always, I'm missing support for Python-based Alexa skills. If you can elaborate more, Playtime, we have a Python package, so you should have as
far as I know, when we come out with new features, we do have parity across Java, Node.js, and Python for at least most things.
Yeah. It's definitely not the case several years ago, but yeah, Python, Java, and JavaScript are the three main supported languages for Alexa. Right. All right. Well, now we have a little bit of a lull in questions. I want to talk about something that actually comes up quite frequently for me, and it's something that I feel we personally at Alexa have not done a stellar job of evangelizing. And actually, the reference I'm going to provide is not written by us, but it is my favorite. And that is the concept of Lambda versioning and aliases in Alexa skills. This comes up a lot when I talk to developers about, how do I continue to work on my skill backend while it's in certification or while it's live without affecting the live content. And I'm surprised that Lambda versioning and alias has not been evangelized anymore. And actually, the content I'm going to share is from 2018. There are new methods for deploying stacks within AWS that are also really great. I find this to be very low effort, low impact, as opposed to doing it like a CloudFormation deployment. But both options will work. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Lambda versioning and aliases as we are doing Sorry, I'm reading the comments now while I'm talking. As we are answering office hours questions today.
Hold on, I gotta write down.
It's Swagway Mongway. That's my Mandarin trying to pronounce that. On Twitch says, I have a lot of new ideas for new features and improvements for Alexa. Where can I give them away? That would be the Contact Us form, or in the user voice, or in the Alexa community Slack that I have up here on the screen. Any of those, you can kind of say, these are the features I would like. I think Ryan's going to link the Contact Us form, I imagine.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. And you can always find the Contact Us form is actually linked from the developer console, the, I guess, ellipse menu. It's right under documentation and forms. It's Contact Us, and you can use that anytime and fill it out. Steve's asking a great question about Lambda versioning. So funny fact about that, I actually, in the 2 minutes before we start today, tried to migrate one of my Lambdas over for the purposes of a live demo on how to do this, but I'm going to fake it because I didn't get it moved over fast enough. We'll give it a shot. In my Sandbox account, I actually have no skills right now. They're all in my prod account. So we'll just take a look at a
We'll
Lambda.
Support you as you go. We'll support you.
Yeah. It'll be too much work for me to migrate it over. So we'll just kind of do it hypothetically. This is what it would look like, but it is quite easy to do. Yeah, Playtime. If you feel like this is application-based development, so I can't exactly advise you on versioning with Linux and Ubuntu, but if you find that you are missing features or you're missing support, again, feel free to use that Contact Us form or post a question in the Slack. All right. Steve asks a really great question. Is it easy to retrofit live? I feel like he's like feeding me topic points, which is great. This is completely unplanned. Is it easy to retrofit live skills with Lambda versioning, or do you have to set it up at the outset? The answer is no, you do not have to set it up at the outset. You can do it at any time. This is because Alexa skill endpoints, as you know, are just you put the endpoint into a box and you save it. Now, here's where that answer becomes kind of a maybe, is that if you've submitted the skill and you published it live and you do not have versioning and aliases enabled, then that live version, you'll have to essentially resubmit it again to get the aliased URL in there. So that is one caveat, is for existing skills, you will want to get that set up, and Awitter's literally just commented that, is that you will need to recertify with the alias. So I'm going to share an article that I have been sending to people since I've been developing with Alexa for almost 5 years now, 6 years, something like that. It's from 2018, so I guess it hasn't been that entire duration, but since 2018. And it's a really great article on, it's called Non-Breaking Lambda Deployments for Alexa skills using versions and aliases. It is literally from June of 2018. I send it to everyone, including new hires who ask me how to do CI/CD deployments for Alexa skills. It is written on CodeCentric, which appears to be a blog. I've never actually looked into the website that it's on. So there may be other really great articles on this website, but this is the only one I know of. So here's the article real quick. If you want to look at that, bookmark it, save it. It is basically evergreen. I've been using that content for years. Doesn't change too much. AWS's console will likely change in the future and make this a little less relevant. But this is a great way to be able to have a production skill. So I'm going to share my screen now while Ryan and I chat through versioning and aliases. So let's talk about doing it in an existing skill.
Is this going to be our Pioneer Trail skill that we kicked off?
It's Yukon Trail.
Yukon Trail.
Oh no, I have a bit of an echo.
I was excited to see how that would play out.
It was too much work. I got tired of it. All right, so we have up here on the right, this is again that article. You can read through it real quick. I actually find that you can just look at the images and covers basically everything you need to know. This is how I review articles. There has to be images in them, otherwise I will get nothing out of it.
Yep.
So what you can see here is oh, I gotta figure out this echo. Is it you and me echoing? Do you hear it? Is it just me?
It's just you.
Oh, well, that's fine. I can deal with it. All right, so we're going to create the alias first. And this is going to be a name that we just give the endpoint, so that instead of that weird long name that you see in Lambdas, it's going to be an actual kind of dictionary name. This means that I can reuse it. You can think of it, well, it's like email aliases. You can also think of it like the text on a link. Yeah, see, I'm not dealing with the echo. Now when I talk, yeah, it's definitely you. So Ryan's just going to sit here quietly and watch so that I don't, so that the echo doesn't just make me go a little bonkers. All right. Thanks, Oxygen Box. Man, Ryan, got you all this new fancy hardware and for some reason it's not working. Okay, so back to this. Again, you can think of it as a nice dictionary-friendly name for the endpoint that we're going to use. And what this means is behind that name, I can put different Lambda links. And so once we have the aliases, we can start to add in versions. And so a version is kind of like a commit, and that I will have version 1 would be what the Lambda looked like on this day at this time. And I've saved it. And that's typically what we're going to do right before submitting it, or once it passes certification, is you want to submit a version. So we'll get started by creating that alias. Here is my non-Alexa enabled Lambda. This is the one I just built real quick, and I was going to put all of my Alexa code into it. But again, I tried to do this 2 minutes before this call, which does not work. So as you can see already, the console looks completely different from what is in that article. As I mentioned, AWS has been rearranging things, adding in new features. I think the most recent update was not too long ago, and I started to get completely lost because, is it in Monitor? The configuration page was completely different, and I was trying to figure out where to add users and to add additional triggers. Luckily, that one's easy to find. So with aliases, you would just, again, create an alias. I'm going to name it like the article says. I'm going to name it prod1. And so what we're going to end up doing as we're submitting skills is you're just going to be flipping endpoints over and over and over again. You're going to need at least 2 aliases. This is because when you could do just the version, where you could say like, oh, development is on current, and then this version is on version 1. But the problem is that then you have to go in and update the endpoint and say, okay, now it's version 2, version 3. You have to manually do that. So by having 2 aliases, I just have to know that one of them is going to be current and one of them is going to be maybe the previous version. Makes it a little bit easier to manage. Also makes it a little less prone, I think personally, to accidentally touching the wrong version. And the nice thing is that if you do happen to leave, let's say I submitted with prod1, and prod is set to the latest. I'm using a lot of terms here, and we're going to go into it in a minute. If you do happen to submit it erroneously, you can go ahead and create another alias later and, flip things around, and you'll be fine.
Looking at Play Tom's question.
Yes. Playtom is asking, why is there no easy way to essentially sell an Alexa skill to another company? I personally do not know why there's no easy way. I would say, from my opinion, is that skills were not originally designed. They were originally designed just to be these fun experiences that we had a lot of hobbyists working on them. And so the concept of transferring them and moving them around was maybe not something that was thought of in the beginning. I personally don't know if we have any plans for implementing such a feature. I don't think you do either, Ryan, but yeah, again, if this is a feature you want, that's what user voice and the contact us form are for. It's just to say, hey, I have demand for this. User voice is actually a better forum for that, because then people upvote the feature, and we actually do look at those upvotes and kind of determine between, feasibility time and demand, which features would be the best ones to release. And your echo is gone, or are you muted again? You are muted again.
I'm muted.
Wait, so leave it unmuted. I want to see if it still does it. Yeah, it's gone now. Did you do something?
I clicked a bunch of buttons in settings, so hopefully that did something.
Yeah, it's great. Okay. Ryan can be back off mute and talk at the same time. This is exciting.
Playtime, I will say though that do use the, like, if this is the feature that you want, draft it in user voice. So as Steph mentioned, people cannot vote it, but use the contact us version or contact us field to actually request if you have the rights between, like, get an email, PDF, saying, yes, I transfer the rights from one owner to the other owner, and share that with contact us. And that is something that the team should be able to facilitate. I do have reports of that actually working.
And as far as your kind of second part about making a transfer between two AWS accounts, so if you do transfer your developer.amazon.com version of the skill, meaning you take it and its user base and move it over, you still will need to get a copy of their endpoints and all the Lambda code and redeploy it and recertify this skill. There is, unless you intend to, work with AWS to transfer an entire AWS account, which I don't think most people selling skills want to do. You will still need to get a copy of the code and republish it. The purposes of transferring the skill within Alexa itself is just so you have the skill, like kind of the front end of that skill, but the back end is still there. Ryan is an expert on transferring skills.
So, painfully, yes.
Painful expert. I don't think I think the last time I transferred one was for the same person you transferred for. So It's been a while for me to transfer a skill. All right. So, trade lots. It's clicking a bunch of buttons usually works. Apparently for Ryan, it's a panacea. So we are going to create our first prod alias, and it's going to be set to the latest version. I haven't done any versions, so it's just going to be, if I were to edit the code in Lambda now and push it, that would be whatever version I have. So I don't have a point in time. And then if you want to do A/B testing and traffic shifting, this is a feature that aliases also have. We do not need to do that. So we are just going to save that alias. All right, and I can see here the version. And then I have the ARN. And remember how I said it, replaces that non-friendly text with a permanent dictionary-friendly name. It doesn't actually have to be a dictionary word. You can make it nonsensical characters. I feel like that defeats the purpose.
Just make it more difficult on yourself.
Make it more difficult on yourself. But you can copy it from here. And then you would actually have to set up the trigger within this version or alias as well. This is a common thing that people tend to miss in this setup is you do need to set up the trigger again. It may start to inherit now. I haven't set up an alias in a hot minute. But you want to add that, and then so you just want the trigger and the destination. Permissions should inherit from parent, so nothing to worry about there. All right, now I said we were going to add a second alias. This is how we're going to do the switching. So I can see my alias here. I can see it has a weight of 100%, meaning I'm not doing A/B testing on this. All of the traffic will go to that alias. Let's create a second one. You can name these whatever you want. It's just usually easiest to do prod 1 and prod 2. All right, I'm now going to break an existing skill I have by giving it this alias. So I have added prod 1 and prod 2. And then what I would want to do, I'm currently developing my skill. And so, and actually the skill we're going to use is not in production. But I have a skill. It's my shopping example. I'm going to go over to endpoint. And you can see here where right now, I should probably save that because I'm going to lose it. And then my
what is your shopping example, Steph? What does it do?
My shopping example in this case is actually the GitHub example, where you can use the buy item and add to cart. It uses a very brief yoga experience to give an example of how you might do a suggestion for a product in a flow. You would really want to make it dependent on where the user is rather than just kind of blasting them with a suggestion. So this is the version of that. It does yoga mats and yoga blocks, and it's overly detailed on how to do that. And it is We are still doing a developer preview for shopping, so you do have to be allow listed for it. This is the only skill ID I have that is allow listed for shopping, so it just rotates for it through every shopping example. We are going to be diving more into that feature and a few other features throughout the year. We do have Tech Talks monthly that you can sign up for. There is one, I think there was one last week. But yeah, if you go to developer.amazon.com and check that out, you can see all the Tech Talks, and I might actually have a link to it.
I think it's a pretty cool feature, right? Like you're in a skill, you can imagine a lot of the skills that I like to use are actually companion skills for board games. So being able to surface a retail product within your skill and either offer an add to cart or a buy now option is a pretty neat way to monetize. It's different from obviously in-scale purchasing and purchasing consumables or subscriptions. So it's a really neat feature.
Thanks, Ryan. It's my favorite feature. Yeah, so the great thing about Alexa Shopping Action, so you have 3 different monetization options. You have in-scale purchasing, which is obviously consumables, subscriptions, and one-time purchases. And that's all digital. That's products that are related to your skill. And so it's nice for people who have digital gaming experiences and they want to offer expansion packs, or they have maybe you're a fitness skill and you have would you like some additional weightlifting content or advanced content? You can use ISPs for that, and it's really great. I think I've seen a lot more people use subscriptions than any other feature. Tends to be that's the consuming model that a lot of people like.
Yeah.
But I have seen some success with consumables, which I consider to be one of the hardest ones to implement. And there have been some developers who have done a really great job of figuring out how to do those idle game experiences. And then the second one is Amazon Pay. And so if you go to the developer documentation on how to make money with your skills, essentially, these will be the 2 that you'll see. We are getting it updated to add the 3rd one with shopping actions. But Amazon Pay is a way for you to sell your products maybe from your website, not on Amazon.com. And you use Amazon Pay as the checkout and shipping service. And so it doesn't remove the logistics piece, but it does remove the having to keep track of users, having to keep track of their payments, anything like that. And then Alexa Shopping Actions is the, products on Amazon. All you have to know is what the product identifier is. And I go into that in some of my tutorials. It's a little bit of a unique name for Amazon products. We call it an ASIN. You can find it in the URL. And all you need to do is provide that. And it can be any product ish, asterisk, any product that's not restricted. And you can promote that in the skill. So again, for my experience, I have a yoga skill that then suggests yoga mat and yoga blocks. Another feature that is coming soon, we announced at Alexa Live, is Amazon Associates support for Alexa. And so that means not only can you promote products within your skill, but you can get a commission for them. If you're not familiar with the Amazon Associates program, I strongly encourage you to just kind of look it up. It's a great program. It has roots in what we call affiliate marketing, which has been around for forever. When you go to these sites and people are like, look at all these great products, and you notice that the link to Amazon is a little strange. The Associates program has been around for a while, and people have made, in that regard, people have made very lucrative careers off of it. I don't know if it's still popular these days.
All right. The other way to monetize is something, again, that we announced at Alexa Live, which is paid skills. So instead of offering a free experience and then being in the skill and having to upsell for a subscription or a consumable, you have the ability to offer a one-time or a subscription up front just to get access to the skill. So it's a different type of monetizing model. You see it implemented in mobile quite often. Although mobile, there's a lot of like pay to win type of things, but paid skills up front, pay 99 cents or $1 or something like that just to be able to enable the skill. And then everything else after that is then premium content. That's another route to take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of an extension to ISP. It is important to note that even with paid skills, you can also still do a freemium experience, kind of a trial experience. So you're not having to completely block off access to the skill. All right, that's our daily monetization discussion. Back to Lambda versioning. So all I would do here is I would put this particular alias, and it could also be prod1 for the sake of going in order. I would put this in here. I would save And then I would maybe submit it for certification. I'm not going to do that because I would like to retain my actual backend for this skill instead of the one I've just created that has nothing in it until I move that over and put it into my sandbox. But I would submit it for certification. And then as many of you know who have submitted for certification and who do have live skills, once it is live, this becomes uneditable. And so what I would do then is maybe it's in certification, or maybe it's certified and I did the just certify option. And so I have a cert version, I have a live version, I have a dev version. And that actually might be a scenario where you have 3 aliases, which was not something that was conceived of when this article was originally written. But I could, at this point, I don't want the code that passed certification to accidentally get touched. And this is a common issue we even still see today is people, oops, push to prod on Friday and accidentally take down their skill. And so I would highly encourage you. Aliases are easy. I have not seen a significant impact or any impact really on the freemium tier of AWS by having these. And so they are an easy and cheap way to ensure that you non-breaking Lambda deployments, ensuring that you don't break your skill accidentally. And so what I would do is, because I want to, and since I switched it to prod 1, we'll get into the actual alias that I referenced. What I want to do is I want to make sure that that point in time code does not get altered. And I know prod 1 is what I submitted. Prod 1 is what is certified and is now published live. And I want to go ahead and start adding updates. Updates, maybe there's a new feature out and I want to make sure that I can deploy it and test it. And everybody has, what I could do is I could create 2 versions of the skill, but then it's not really easy to do CI/CD at that point because now I have 2 versions and there's different endpoints and different skill IDs. And it's going to be a pain to kind of keep the 2 language models up to date reliably. So I will just use this as my alternative for creating 2 separate environments. And so at this point, I need to make sure that I save a version. And so if I go here, you see there's no versions. So I'm in this alias. I need to go back to the main one, the main screen. So we have aliases here, and then we have versions. And there's no published versions. This is brand new Lambda. But if there were many, you might see something here. And I'm going to publish a new version. I can add a description. I could say, and I actually find this very handy to say like cert version, what's today, 11.2, right? So I know this was the version certified on 11.2. It's also really handy if you maybe need to roll back and you happen to know at this point in time, the backend code was good.
It's like adding comments to your code, right? Like the more descriptive you are, you're just helping yourself later on.
Yeah, or if somebody has to come in behind you.
That's right.
Versions, unlike aliases, are always numbers. So this is version 1. And you could just use versions in your endpoints. The problem being is that the version has to exist before I submit the skill for certification. So if it's version 1, if I want to go in and edit it, I can't now because I'm on version latest when I'm working on the code locally. So aliases help me to be able to continue to work on a certified version. Maybe there's a couple of issues I notice when it's in the middle of starting. I'm like, oh, I can fix this real quick. I would not advise doing that because you might break something else, but hypothetical situation. So they're always live on the edge, test and prod. And so they're always going to be versions. And what I could do is I could put this into my endpoint and it would just be shopping tester 1. Again, really easy to read. And a lot of this is also about readability and the ability to not kind of make oopsies. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set my alias to version 1. So it was latest before. I can edit the general configuration. I can set it to 1. I can also see the comment here, cert version 11.12. So this is really, having the comments is really handy if you need to go back through real quick and look. Save it, and now it is version 1, and prod 2 is set to the latest, so whatever is fresh. So this skill goes live, and what I do is once it's gone out of certification and I can edit the endpoint again, I change the endpoint now to prod 2 in the development version. And so my live skill has prod 1, and my development skill has prod 2. And I can start working on that and bash away at it, and it will not affect prod 1 because prod 1 is set to version 1. Now, at any given point in time, if I happen to notice a bug in the code, debilitating, the skill has already gone live. It's a tiny fix. I don't want to, it's not something that I feel needs to go through certification again because it's very niche. What I can actually do is you can save a new version of code that works. There are some caveats to this, but you can save a new version of code that works and change again the version tied to that prod 1 alias. So I can put a hotfix in, and it'll just be now set to version 4 or version 6, whatever version I happen to be on. So prod 1 is not set in stone as being as version 1, but by having 2 different, stages of the skill, I can ensure again that I'm not going to break it down the road. And as you can see, it's really easy to do. All you need to do for a live skill, as Steve asked earlier, all you need to do for an existing skill is you have to recertify it to get one of those aliases in there. And then going forward, all you do is just you just start flipping the aliases. So I would the next time I certified, I would probably submit with prod 2. And prod 2 would get an incremental version. And then once it's certified, I would start, I would set prod 1 to latest, and I would start working on it. And you just keep flipping them. If you are using the 3-tiered just certify, you could actually have 3 different aliases, prod 1, 2, and 3. The live version could be on prod 1, the certified version could be prod 2, and the development version could be prod 3. It's really up to you. But yeah, this is just an introduction to a very easy way to ensure that you don't break your skills. It's extremely easy to set up if you are using Lambda. I believe the other clouds have their own version of this as well. So I always encourage you, no matter what provider you're using, to set up some redundancy with your skills if they are live skills, just because one tiny little typo, as we have seen, one malformed SSML message can break a skill experience, and you may not know until your users are leaving bad reviews. So anyways, that's an introduction to versioning and aliases.
I feel like I have to take some notes from this as well. There's some best practices here.
Oh man, I feel like I thought I gave everybody this soap opera pitch. Yeah, so Witters, even better if you do not like doing this manually. Witters on Twitter has talked about how or Twitch, not Twitter, has talked about how he wrote a bash script to publish a new Lambda version and update an alias to that new version. So there, the AWS SDK is fully open. You can create all kinds of little scripts. So anytime, you could even actually create a script locally with CLI where every time you submit to cert, this script would also do that version updating for you. So a lot of ways to automate yourself out of making mistakes for sure. Oxygen Box on Twitch says good stuff, more practical stuff like this during office hours, please. You're welcome. Thanks. This is my favorite easy Alexa hack. And I feel like not because we haven't published such a great article ourselves for reasons I do not know. We should actually publish probably a new one. It's a little bit more current. A lot of people don't know about this, and it's really easy to do. And again, to Ryan's point, helps you implement some best practices. Yeah, maybe Witters will share his or hers. Sorry, I do not know your pronouns. Share their script on GitHub or other medium. Maybe he will share his script on GitHub and show you how to do this through Bash. And I might actually share one for doing it via the CLI, where you can also submit for cert and update the Lambda alias. All right. Well, that was my useful tidbit for the day. What else could we talk about since I'm in the console and already breaking things? Actually, let me real quick set this back to its original ARN. Because this is a test skill, I don't use aliases. There's a fine line between being and I probably should actually, because this skill will get multiple different skills laid on top of it. It would save me a whole lot of time updating code if I just put versions in here. But yeah, you can see it's default, blah, blah, blah. So what's another fun tidbit? Have we ever figured out the secret sauce to live skill updates, Ryan?
Oh no, that's
How big is
that is a delicate area.
it? Is.
You
Yeah.
can basically add slot values, synonyms, um, and sample utterances. Anything else that you change will gray that button out. So I think that's the very narrow band that you can play in.
Yeah, so what we are talking about is this button up here called Update Live Skill that released, I think, in 2019, actually.
It's been a
It's
while. Yeah.
it's been around a while. And the concept being that if you make minor tweaks to your skills language model, interaction model, you can just update it without going through certification. However, because especially if you use the CLI and you develop your language model offline, there are a lot of things that get tweaked, even just uploading that new language model via the CLI. And so, to Ryan's point, there are very few things you can change that will qualify a skill for a live skill update. And we have been trying to figure out, even personally, the secret sauce to having the ideal environment for doing that. The reason being, there's a lot of skills that like to do things like daily trivia. And you can imagine that involves a lot of slot values that rotate constantly. And so for these developers, it's actually a very useful feature. And then those developers, there's a few of them around that have figured out how to keep their environment unaffected by their kind of tooling. And so they will add in additional, and I think it's just slot values. You can't add additional slot types either.
No, it's
Just
slot
slot
values,
values
synonyms, and sample utterance
and
phrases.
sample utterance phrases. Is it sample in the distribution page or sample in a intent?
Nope, in an intent.
In
The
an intent.
distribution page will throw you out of whack. Don't
That's
go
what it
there.
is. Maybe that's where
Yeah.
my confusion has been, is that I will go update the example utterances, not sample, is where I got confused. And it'll say, no, you can't live update it. So yeah, for those of you that are interested in this feature that want to use it, again, it is limited to slot values. And adding additional slot values to an existing slot type, cannot add a new slot type, and then synonyms on those slot values, and then also sample utterances. So what shows up in here on an existing intent. That is it. If you touch anything else, this skill will have too much change and you cannot submit it. It is a really great feature. I have seen people use it in these trivia-based scenarios. Once you figure out the things that cannot be touched and the things that get affected by CLI updates. Real quick, Brad the Roman on Twitch says, do you know when .NET 6 support will come to Lambda? I do not. However, I believe the AWS team also has office hours on Twitch. And I would highly recommend hitting them up about that. It's intriguing. I'd be curious if you are actually developing skills in .NET. I know there's a community repo out there for that someone created years ago for creating .NET skills, but I tell everybody I think the two hardest languages to build skills in would have to be Ruby and .NET, and so I'm always amazed when I see a .NET skill come through. All right, we still have 16 minutes. I have not talked enough, apparently.
I think one of the underused aspects of the developer console are the NLU and the ASR evaluation tools.
Yeah, let's. I don't have any live skills.
Well, even we can try this one here. If you just scroll up to the top and click on Evaluate Model, in the top right.
All
So
right, guide me.
what these are, before deploying your skill, it's always a good idea to test it out to see where the edge cases are. So you can drop in an utterance here like by yoga mat, and this will just quickly test what intent am I going to hit. So you can see, great, it's got that. But if Steph were to type in something like buy an awesome yoga mat or I'd like to purchase something, maybe that wouldn't come up. So this is good for the one-off tests. But when you're doing large changes throughout your model, it's really helpful to generate a large set of test phrases. So if you were to click on NLU evaluation, we'll see how good her. There you go. There you go.
Look how smart she is.
Click on NLU evaluation. And you can create a whole set of utterances here and see which intents it would hit to. So you tape it or name it something. Yep. You describe the expected intent and then slots that you may want to fill. And so when you create these sets of utterances or these test sets, these annotation test sets, it's really awesome to be able to do this between versions, right? That way you know if you're not improving your NLU accuracy or degrading it.
This is an interesting one. So I want yoga went to the buy item intent, which means my add to cart is not getting hit. That's good.
Right.
Let's spend money. I'll just mess with it because I know this won't work. And then
if you don't have any slots, you don't need to. You don't need to do those. So you save annotation test set. It'll take a second. And then if you go back to evaluate model in the top right, you can then run this against your skill. So as you make changes, you may be introducing new slot types or adding new, maybe you want to buy, add to cart intent, I think I see up there, and you want it to differentiate the phrases that would go to one or the other. You can run your test, you can see what the results are, and then click on the evaluation. You can see here the results failed. Click on the evaluation ID, the link there, and then that will tell you what has failed and what's not. So then you can say, I expected this to go to the refund, but it actually went to buy item. So this is inadvertently creating customer friction in your skill. When you're like, oh, why won't Alexa listen to me? So then, as she's doing now, you can then update your sample utterances and go from there. So really, really helpful. And then ASR is even neater. And ASR is automatic speech recognition. So will the speech to text translate accurately? So I don't know if we can do this while on stream, but we can try it. Click and hold the microphone. So you can say, buy yoga mat. And what I usually, I'll stop.
How do I?
Yep.
Oh! I can tell I don't ever use this feature.
Yep.
Buy yoga mat.
And then you type in the expected transcription under there. So buy yoga mat. This is what you'd expect. So I use this for testing skills, kind of like in a social scenario. So if I'm across the room and I'm yelling to Song Quiz, the answer is X, or I'm maybe there's crosstalk going on, or maybe I want to speak really, really quickly into the microphone or really, really slowly, or I want to kind of mask my voice. I can test to see how well the expected transcription is lining up with what I would think would be happening. So the end result for something like this is you can add in synonyms for your values. One example for a partner skill that I was working with, it was a word guessing game. And one of the words that you could guess was castle. Castle. But ASR was frequently coming up with cancel. And so we were having a lot of unexpected stop and cancel intents because ASR was mishearing castle when you speak it very, very quickly as cancel. So I can then adjust my language model to bring in those utterances. So two very, very helpful tools for two obviously different sets of problems. But when you run this, you can ensure your skill is at least a baseline and you're not making it worse as you add new features to it. So two, I would say, underused with regards to
buy yogurt.
Yeah, you see? Right?
But
so maybe
castle.
Right? So for this one, right, you can add yogurt as a synonym for your yoga mat product, and then you're going to capture those utterances with that slot value. So I think this is a very, very fun tool to use.
So what's really interesting about this is it's actually not skill dependent. So one thing I did recently was I actually went through a catalog of about, I think, 1,000 items. And these were items that you would have in a retail catalog. So they're given fun names for brands. And this particular skill, this catalog, they had no synonyms. And so what I would do is I would use our classic method for testing recognition, which would be Alexa Simon Says, and then the phrase, and I can hear back what she heard. This is a much more efficient way to do that, and you can do it with any skill. Clearly, I haven't spent a lot of time in the ASR evaluator these days. I should do that. So yeah, this is also a great tool if you want to test recognition. And again, this is even better because it's showing the expected and the actual. And I'm sure you could test this a couple of times and the variations might change. And it is not skill dependent. So you could have a test skill that you run these through at any given time. And always test your slots at least. Things that sound correct in English do not sound the same in Alexa. So
and
always
what's nice
test
about
it.
this too is that there is CLI access, so you can programmatically do this. Once you build your annotation test sets, you can just bring this into your pipeline, right? So you can trigger it through whatever scripts you want to, and then you can have pass-fail threshold. So if you don't get maybe 100% is what you want, or maybe at least 75% or 82% or whatever your benchmarks are, you can do all of that offline, which is really cool once you create the test sets here.
Yeah, and the other great thing about this too is that if you do it within the skill, you can already go in and either add a synonym or a value. I don't have any slots. This is a free form skill, so it just listens for buy because it only supports one item at present. But if I did have slots, I could go ahead and update it either by, I would probably add a synonym for yoga mat as yogurt mat, yogurt. Yogurt. Maybe I want to buy yogurt too. That would be really complicated, wouldn't it? So yeah, the great tool. For those joining in now, we are doing practical updates to your Alexa skills to improve them, which don't take a lot of time and are pretty easy to do. So we started out with Lambda versioning and aliases, and we have now moved on to the ASR and NLU evaluation tool. Apparently a best kept secret. I've already done 2 of these and it only took a couple minutes to run them both. Really easy way to make sure what your skill hears is what users are saying. Because as we know, the number one friction point for most people is I said it and she didn't understand me. So always test these. All right, we have about 7 minutes left in the office hours today. We've been pretty light on questions, but thank you to everybody who has joined. Happy to answer any lingering questions. Otherwise, Ryan and I will probably just chat about skills for another 7 minutes and then close out for the day. Your favorite host, Jeff, will be back on Thursday and Tuesday next week. He'll be back for office hours next week as well. Again, these are very rare occurrences in which I take over his stream. And if you have any complaints, feel free to tweet at Jeff.
That's right. I will say though that I've tried to take a lead from his book, and I've got some RGB going on here. And just off camera, I've got my Funko Pop heads, right? So I'm trying to I'm trying to get in there. Right?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of real estate behind you that's taken up by dog that could.
There is.
I also have RGB, but the light of the day has caused it to be kind of whited out, so you just get to see my book.
We live in a place where typically the skies are gray, so the fact that we have some sunshine right now, I think we should appreciate
right. This is a good problem to complain about.
It is.
So it has been pretty. I mean, even then, I look outside and it's not that bright right now. Let's see, what other feature can we talk about? One that I can't actually show on this page because it is a mobile feature is something that we also announced at Alexa Live called Rich Media on Skill Detail Pages. This is another semi-easy update that you can make to a skill that just improves the overall experience that your customers will have when searching for a new skill. So as long as I have been with the Alexa team, up until this year, one thing that people constantly talked about is why can I not have video preview and image preview for my skills like you would in an app store? And so this is like you go into the app store on your phone, you look at something and you'll see screenshots or you'll see, videos, or Ryan's actually going to show one on his phone because I don't have Android unlocked on my screen right now. And so at Alexa Live, we announced this feature, which is just that. It's the ability to add still images and a single video to your skill. It is only in the mobile app version for now, but you can obviously expect us to eventually release it for the web. And all it does is it allows users to have a preview of what that experience is going to look like. So at Alexa Live, we showed the Blue's Clues skill experience. And it just walks through kind of like why you would want to use the skill, what the skill does. It's a great way for people to get an initial idea of kind of that experience. We see a lot more people spending time in the Alexa app because of routines. And so they're looking for skills they might want to interact with. There are top skill suggestions in the app. And so it's a really easy way for you to entice users to enable your skill by kind of showing them what they can look forward to. So there's the Blue's Clues. I think your screen froze. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, so you can click on it. You can see I don't know the name of the new Steve.
He's Josh.
Josh?
Yep.
What a great name. I grew up on Steve, so it's really hard for me to accept that there's another host.
He's a great host.
He is I've heard good things about the new one. And so the documentation is available on developer.amazon.com, and you are limited to 6 images and 5 images and 1 video.
Yep.
You can, the great thing is a lot of people tend to take their APL screens. They will, now again, this is not going to be the highest quality you could put, but you can take your APL screens and kind of screenshot those and use those as the images. If you're savvy with video editing, and Ryan has, here, I'll share actually to all channels. That's terrible. Here, send me the link. Send me the link to the thing I am talking about.
Here it's in private chat.
Oh, look at you using features. So with Rich Media, you can essentially you would upload the images. You will need to recertify the skill to have them published live. So you can do that as the only update you make, and you should be able to see them. And it's supported in all locales except for the newly launched Arabic locale. And that's just because it is new. And so we haven't released it there yet. But all other locales where Alexa is available, you can upload images for. And so again, these are just really easy things you can do to add some quality to the skill, prevent yourself from making issues or errors by breaking updates. Or you can just improve the voice experience by using the ASR NLU evaluation tool to quickly catch misrecognitions before they go to your production users. So 3 features we talked about today: rich media, Lambda versioning and aliases, and ASR and NLU evaluation tool. As Ryan mentioned, the tool is also available via CLI, so you can start to automate this, but it was super easy to use from the console, so I would highly recommend checking it out there, and then maybe using it in your deployment pipelines. All right, as we start to kind of close out on today's office hours, Ryan, any last notes, tool tips, voice of wisdom? You get 1 line.
Portrait mode.
Portrait mode. That's right. We didn't talk about the new portrait mode. Oh man, we didn't peddle your favorite feature. That is unfortunate. So basically what's going to have to happen is the next office hours we have to invade while Jeff is online and take it over to talk about portrait mode. I like it.
Look forward to that.
I think we should do that. We should just, I'll find the link to the stream and we'll just invade without him knowing. So next time, maybe if Jeff agrees, we will talk about developing skills for portrait mode. This is important because of the new Echo Show that was announced a couple weeks ago. I'm really excited actually to get one. I genuinely would like to put a giant Echo on my wall. I'm super stoked for that. But we will talk about, we'll have Ryan talk about developing skills and going from landscape mode that you're used to today to portrait mode. Real quick, Oxygen Box has a question. Will portrait mode be required for certification?
Nope. It's just like any other viewport. It's all up to your skill experience. So it's like any other viewport, you can choose to support it or not, but it won't be required.
Yeah. So and if you're not familiar with what Ryan means by supported viewports, real quick, where's it at? Multimodal. That's not it. That's not what I wanted. Interfaces. There we go. Are they not here anymore?
Your screen froze. Should be.
I don't see them all. Oh, it's because I don't have it turned on. Of course. So if you turn on APL, unlike me, viewports, here's portrait mode. If you don't want to support it, you just uncheck that box. So the first time you turn it on, they'll be all selected by default, but I think if you have an existing one, it will not auto-select portrait mode. So if you don't want to support portrait mode, or you want to wait until Ryan's amazing tutorial on portrait mode, this tutorial is available on the developer blog. You can view it today, or we will get Ryan to come back and talk about developing for portrait mode. And we are now a minute over. So thank you everyone for joining for office hours today. As I mentioned, Jeff will be back on Thursday. Again, if you have any complaints about our hosting today, feel free to tweet at him. I will have a good laugh about it. But jokes aside, really enjoyed hanging out with all of you. And yeah, maybe next time, let me know any of you who have implemented some of these really easy updates to your skill. Just overall make the skill experience better. That's all. Thanks, Ryan, for joining me. Kind of last minute. I drug him in literally 10 minutes before this started. Always great to have you here. And we will see you all next time for office hours.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.